everyone, and welcome to another high-low game of Age of Empires. Today, the territorial dispute over the resource-rich Paracel Islands has erupted into full-on war as TaToH, playing as the Vietnamese in red, gets ready to take on Barles, playing as the Chinese in blue. Now, all the players heard their herdables explore their immediate enclosed-off surroundings because we are on Arena today, and try to get their butts up to Feudal Age, probably Castle Age ASAP. Not a bad time for us to take a look at the Civ matchup that we are going to be watching today. The Vietnamese, an archer civilization with access to two pretty darn cool archer units. The first unique unit is the Rattan Archer. This is the second fastest foot archer in the game, and one that comes with a pretty decent attack, but more importantly, a massive amount of pierce armor, making it almost impossible for enemy archers to kill it. Think Huskarl with a bow and arrow. The second is their other unique unit, the Imperial Skirmisher, a better armored version of the Elite Skirmisher that comes with an even higher attack bonus against both foot archers and cavalry archers. Now, if that wasn't enough archer for you, every single unit that comes out of a Vietnamese archery range, well, it comes with 20% more HP. That is support their archers on the field of battle, especially against Ibex that don't do what they want to do, what you want them to, and don't go in the direction they want you want them to go into. Well, Vietnamese battle elephants can be upgraded to get 100 extra HP, capping out at a very pot-friendly 420, and the Vietnamese get the conscription upgrade free of charge, which means their military-industrial complex hits the ground running in the Imperial Age. That afford the cost of training their ranged units and their battle elephants. All economic technologies cost absolutely no wood and are researched twice as fast as normal, and the Vietnamese lumberjack of all villagers can be upgraded to generate a small amount of gold while he or she cuts down trees. Now, the Vietnamese, unlike some civilizations who have features designed to protect them from raiding, take a look at TaToH's line of sight. You'll notice something on the minimap. The Vietnamese know exactly where their opponents spawn every single game, which does help them direct their raiding, their exploration, etc. Ibex, boar, a veritable zoo of meat here. Now, on a closed map like Arena, not exactly the most relevant of bonuses, but a pretty darn cool feature nonetheless to know exactly where your opponents are starting out on the map. Now, speaking of opponents, let's take a look at Barles, playing as the Chinese in blue, a well-rounded civilization whose economic bonuses and very strong tech tree mean the player has lots and lots of options on how to crush his or her enemies. To start with, all technologies for the Chinese get progressively cheaper, 5% cheaper in feudal, 10 and then 15% cheaper in imperial. Their farms seed with 10% more food. Their town centers support 15 population space, which is why you'll see with a TC and 2 houses, it's not the usual 15, but rather 25, whereas every other player needs to plop down a few extra houses to get up to that 25. By the way, the town center, one thing I do love to show you every time we watch the Chinese, although it's a little bit hard to see now, take a look at their line of sight. Recently buffed. Like the Persians, not too sure the Chinese really needed a buff, but they have +7 tiles line of sight in every direction on their town center, which does mean that they see a lot of their starting resources right from the very beginning of the game. And speaking of the very beginning of the game, the Chinese start every single game hitting the ground running with 3 extra villagers, but this does come at the cost of 200 less food and 50 less wood. And I'm always curious to see, because they start with no food on a random map like this, but 3 extra villagers, how much TC idle time the Chinese player racks up. For now, Barles at 11 seconds. That help defend the Chinese economy against raids. Their walls and towers can be upgraded to get 30% more HP in an upgrade called the Great Wall. No surprise there. A very cool upgrade, but one that we rarely see. Hopefully we get to see it today. Always down for some unique techs we don't really usually see. Now, on the field of battle, the Chinese can field all top-of-the-line infantry units, although without the supplies upgrade, be prepared to pay a little bit extra for your champions. Their foot archers, their skirmishers are also pretty cool, especially if you mix in their unique unit, the Chukanu. This is a foot archer that fires multiple arrows that can be upgraded to get even +2 more attack. Now, while their cavalry is pretty decent, it's really their scorpions, their siege that can be problematic to fight, since their scorpions can get a massive +4 attack boost with an upgrade called rocketry. So those are the 2 civilizations we've got in front of us. Both players already out on the map with their scouts, already having pushed their various pushables, pulled their pullables, eating their various domesticated red or blue bandanaed sheep. Both players, 23, 24 villagers a pop, should be going up in the next couple of minutes, if not earlier. Looks like our Vietnamese already has the food, probably just pumping out a villager or two extra, maybe going a little bit overboard. But I'm assuming it's going to be the good old 25, 26 villager population uptime. And that gives us an opportunity to discuss Arena and see a few important things. One, this is disgusting. I really don't like to see when forests form part of a wall off in not one, not two, but 3 different locations for our Chinese player to worry about. And even though no siege onagers for the Vietnamese, they do still get onagers, which means they can bust through this forest with one volley, I guess is the word I'm looking for, of their big flaming rocks, as opposed to having to tear down Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. No, you don't need to. You can just fire around the wall and go through the forest. So that's not great. I see a big forest here as well. Okay, so a little bit better for our Vietnamese, although not good, period. I really don't like when forests form part of wall offs. It's just, I don't know, makes it a lot more risky to defend later on in the game. Now, another thing you want to look for on Arena, because you do start behind closed doors, is where are your internal resources located and how easily can they be lamed. This patch of stone, the few patches can be lamed, this one not so much. But I like for TaToH that both of his golds, primary and secondary, are in the back, whereas for Barles, both of them, primary, secondary, are in the front position, and it is his stone. Does that mean we're going to get to see Chinese castles? Does that mean we're going to get to see Chukanus? I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait and find out. Then third important thing to look for on a map like Arena, everyone usually starts with a bit of an expansion area where they can build more farms, expand their settlements. Not a lot here to the north, but a big old backyard for our Vietnamese, whereas it looks like our Chinese has his more evenly distributed and kind of a, I guess if you're looking at it from the left side, it's a smaller than sign, or if you're looking from the right side, it's a greater than sign. Backyard has deleted part of his wall, not the rest of it. Not too sure why he's keeping the rest of it up. TaToH has already deleted the entirety of his wall, and both players in feudal. Our Chinese already heading up to the castle age off the back of what? We got a market and a stable. Now, usually Arena follows a 3-part meta where the players in stage 1 do rush their butts up to the castle age. Now, why do they do that? So that stage 2 can begin. They can build monasteries, train monks, and then start fighting over the relics that they want to gather. And on Arena, there are 5 relics. And once you gather all 5 relics and the bloodshed over these magical golden items has been shed, well, then stage 3 of the game begins, where the players build big old armies, expand out onto the map. Now, not every game follows this 3-part meta, but we'll see whether or not the players decide to do this. Pardon me. I think Barles may have one of the lowest TC idle times I've seen with the Chinese, going up to castle age off of 12 seconds. That's pretty darn good. That is pretty darn good. Both players at 28 villagers a pop. I feel like, yeah, I feel like TaToH, because he's going up about 40 or so seconds behind his opponent, did skip out on Loom here. We've got a bit of an attack happening to the south. And this is where stage 2 of the game is about to start in 48 seconds once both players are in castle. I guess it technically starts when one player is in castle. That's a good philosophical question. When does stage 2 begin? When one player hits castle age, or when both players are in castle age? Because right now, the relics are technically being contested. Although at the moment, no monastery for our Chinese. He is going wood expenditure on town centers, 2 extra. Although the fact that he's got 4 scouts, soon to have husbandry, tells me very much that he is interested in gathering either gathering the relics or denying TaToH a clean gathering. You know, make your opponent bleed a little bit and make them spend that 100 gold. And there we go. Ark of the Covenant for red being lowered into its secret compartment. Extra TC for our Vietnamese as well. No extra construction yet. Okay, so it is a denial force as opposed to a gathering force here out of our Chinese in blue, who with husbandry has a look at that movement speed, 1.71 tiles per second. I wonder if he'll keep his scouts as light cav, or if he'll scouts as scouts, pardon me, or if he'll upgrade them to light cav. Vietnamese going extra town center as well. And nothing yet under construction for our Chinese, who is ahead 2 villagers at the moment. Also ahead 1 army count. When will the first monk pop out? How close are we? All right, we are seconds away from seeing where TaToH will send this monk. I'm assuming he's seen, yeah, look at the minimap. He's seen all 5 relics. Barles has also seen all 5 relics. So both players have explored and seen where, oh where, that little holy man with his sandals and his book and his crook will be heading. And that is why they are on the constant move. No rest for the wicked as they try to pivot left, try to pivot right. Sending out a single exposed monk may not necessarily be fantastic. And look at Barles, by the way, staying within the darkness between the spearman and the monk. I don't know if by skill or by luck, but that is a fantastic move out of him. And the monk will discover the... Okay, no, now he sees with his scouts, does TaToH, that there is a bit of a force here. But you know what? He's shooing this away. Not too sure you want to take a fight unless it's a completely distractionary fight. And yeah, it is a distractionary fight as the monk heads home. And no, Barles sniffs out that something's happening. Does manage to get the first kill, draws first blood, and he gets the monk. You are not making it home with that relic. That being said, this scout might want to get the hell out of there. He may not be making it home as well. Third kill goes down. But TaToH is not without his own defenses. Gets a scout of his own. Does have a spearman, does our Vietnamese. And now outnumbered and outgunned. We'll see how well the Vietnamese army does here. Okay, getting a few kills. Not terrible. Spearman should shoo this away. Relic, to be fair, has not been brought into the town, into the monastery, but it's inside the settlement. And now the name of the game for Barles, distract. Oh, TaToH sending out. So already 200 gold with 2 dead monks has been spent on these relics. I always try to determine whether or not gathering relics is worth it, basically based on the amount of gold spent gathering it. You know, it's like the famous joke about how does a business make $1 million by spending 2 million, or how do you win $1 million gambling by spending 2 million? If you're spending 1,000 gold on monks to get relics that generate you 800 gold, you have not won anything in this game. You are in fact down. Looks like the Chinese scout will meet its end very soon as the spearman closes in. Poke to the horse's butt, and down it goes. And the armies continue. Well, the army is much smaller, to be fair. So now might not be a bad time for TaToH to release a few more monks. He does have one more. Will he go for the safer relic first, or will he go out onto the map again? Oh yeah, high octane spear versus spear. Blue backing away. Not too sure why. He's got the better HP here. TaToH might want to help his spearman buddy out. Okay, well, he's going to lose a spearman here unless he decides to run away and be annoying. No, he doubles down, and when he doubles down, he dies. Looks like that internal relic was taken. At the same time, our Chinese player, also with a monastery of his own, has managed to take a relic. So there's still one to the north, one in the center, and one in the west. And again, army count's very small, so players are, you know, take it or leave it. I feel like they can, at this point, they just want to build their armies and grow their economies. Our Chinese economy, with the earlier third town center, is ahead 8, 9, 10 villagers, depending on when you look up at the at the screen at the top here. Okay, Vietnamese gets another relic into the settlement, so it will be 2-1, expanding with a 4th town center. Okay, like I said, it doesn't really seem like the players are very anxious to fight here. Kind of a few little tickles and prods and over the pants petting, but nothing too crazy. They both finally have light cavalry, which does slow the unit down a little bit. Okay, more harassment. Spearman. At this point, a spearman against light cavalry doesn't really stand a chance. So there are 2 relics out on the map. Will they just abandon them? Will they keep going? Our Chinese player has 660 stone, which means there is a castle incoming. And oh, here we go. He's trying to build for an expansion. I love that he left the Arch of Titus here, just standing on its own, having deleted all the walls around it. That's what it's called, right? The Arch of Titus, or yeah, Titus. The famous one next to the Colosseum in Rome. 2 relics still. Okay, so Barles says, you know what? Take the relics. I don't care. I'm just going to try to snipe your monks as I did before. I have 1 relic. You've got 2. I'm heading up to Imperial. And you can just have fun chasing me around the map as I begin plopping down what? Archery ranges with archers. Okay. So, unfortunately, I thought we were going to see Chukanus. But we are going to go to see, get to see Arbalesters. Chinese archer line, hand, foot archer. I don't know why I said hand archers, foot archers, leg archers, butt archers. Their foot archer line is pretty much pristine. It's their mounted archers that are missing Parthian tactics. Oh, this is exactly what Barles was waiting for. One wackadoo, just a second needed to kill the monk. Yeah, well, there you go. You traded a bunch of food in exchange for a gold monk. And to be fair, now you've revealed that you've got a bunch of crossbowmen. Oh, no. Oh, no. Where did Barles think he was going with this body of monks? So both players trading out a little bit of trash for a little bit of gold. If I'm not mistaken, that is 3 dead monks for our Vietnamese, who has only collected 260 gold at this point. Not exactly the quicker Aztec collecting civilization. And look at the stone for our Chinese. Okay, 1 castle right in the dead center of the map. When, oh when, will GL.TaToH see it? He sees it almost immediately and then backs away. No upgrades for these mounted units. Tells me he is not interested. No, he is going elite skirmisher. Okay. Barles and Imperial. Now ahead only 6 villagers. Continues to aim and... Oh, how cool was that? They look like they fell right into one another. Siege Workshop follow-up here. We'll see. Now, as much as I said the Rattan Archer is very hard for most archers in this game to kill, obviously nothing is ever like a 100% black and white, right? Because you have archer units like the Composite Bowman, for example, that ignore armor. But the Chukanu is actually a unit that does pretty well against any unit with a high amount of pierce armor, similar to Kipchaks. I've said this before, units that fire multiple volleys, whether all at once or at separate times, I don't really get the distinction. First Vil kill of the game, though. Our Chinese is pressing in. They usually do well against high pierce armor. Like the Chukanu, for example, fires, the base model, I think, fires 2 extra arrows that do 3 damage. And so even with the armor of the Rattan Archer, which we are seeing Rattan Archers coming out from our Vietnamese, does mean 2 extra damage compared to another archer unit that wouldn't necessarily do that damage. And if you go up to elite Chukanus, forget about it. That's 4 extra arrows doing 3 damage each. But he's opting to go for the more gold-intensive Arbalester. The Chukanu is cheaper when it comes to gold. It's 35 instead of 40, but it does cost more wood. It does cost 40 wood. Now, on a map like this, wood is not exactly an issue. I think, what are we working with? 500, 600? 626,000 wood. And he's taking wood from the front. Okay, so he says, you know what? I'm not going to upgrade to Onager because that's going to be a waste of time. I'm just going to plow and cut my way through this forest. 2 very forward trebuchets, but to be fair, not a whole bunch, rather, that our Vietnamese can do about this with only ranged units. He still has 1 scout line unit. Where is he? Pervert. Just standing watching these quarry. Go and attack. Don't just stand and watch. You voyeur. More ranged units are being added to our Vietnamese. No trebs. He's opting to go for bombard cannons. We'll see how well that works out. For now, his forward position being cleared out, but a couple of farms, a stable, a barracks. Not exactly the most relevant of infrastructure for somebody going pure ranged units. And let us see how well the Vietnamese can hold here. Looks like that light cavalry unit is finally doing something, but right as I say that, the dot disappears and the light cavalry unit dies and perishes. Okay, I mean, this is a pretty big army. 57 army count to 37. Villager count not too dissimilar, 121 to 129. But again, this is not an army that can deal with Trebs, where are these bombard cannons that he's training? Just one? Does he only have one siege workshop? No, he's got two. Where's the second? What am I missing? Oh, it's right next to it. Oh my goodness. I feel as blind as a bat sometimes when I watch this game. Outposts being destroyed by bombard cannons. Blue's vision on the map, by the way, is absolutely epic. Look at that. He sees about as much of TaToH's base as TaToH sees of TaToH's base. But now we've got 3 bombard cannons. They're moving forward. They're going after the high value target of what? Outpost, ram, arbalester. No, they're gonna one-shot the Trebs. You do need only 3 bombard shots to one-shot a unpacked Treb. Now the forward castle is in trouble. Our Chinese, who had a good amount of stone a few minutes ago, has no stone left at all, and he is going Cavalier upgrades. All of those techs are now 15% cheaper. To the south, bit of an expansion. Looks like this knight took care of business here, getting 3 kills, one of them a villager. So no more construction projects for you. And in comes Barles, pulling a bit of a survivalist, but shoving arbalesters, not infantry units. Cavaliers are dodging, dipping, ducking, diving, and dodging as much arrow fire as they can. The problem for Barles right now is his archer units are going to do nothing. Rattan archer, 10 pierce armor. Elite skirmisher, 9 pierce armor. This army from our Vietnamese is basically invincible. These are all Highlanders. Instead of there can be only 1, there can be only 70. Oh my goodness. And there's paper money. Now, the amount of gold paper money generates is not very high. It's not exactly the craziest of economic bonuses. I think every 1 wood you collect is something like, don't quote me, 0.04 gold. Which, to be fair, kind of makes sense. I mean, there's so much wood. Look at the stream of arrows being fired when it's full of arbalesters. Holy moly. Machine gun. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. You'll love to see it. Okay. We're on Groundhog Day here. Somebody called Bill Murray, because this is the exact same attack that happened a few minutes ago. A few in-game minutes ago, I should say. This time, though, our Chinese is heading straight for the bombard cannons. Will he get one? Will he even get one? Oh my goodness, he does. Actually, he did get one. Pardon me. No, now he gets one. My bad. He did not get one before. And another disastrous push by our Chinese in blue, who has managed to set up his position fantastically. Would love to see a bit more infrastructure here out of Barles, who does have, to be fair, 1,000 wood. That's a few more archery ranges you can add. But there is no... Oh, the village is moving into repair. There is not a lot of follow-up here into this push. Oh, yeah, you got to repair that bombard cannon. And even on the retreat, the Chinese Cavaliers just melt to the overwhelming numbers of rattan archers. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen rattan archers intermingled this much with Imperial skirmishers. What a cool sight to behold. Chinese castle down, Chinese center exposed like a Tootsie Pop that's been licked. Too much. TaToH deletes his own walls, builds a castle there to the north. What are the resources? Okay, so there's stone here. He needs more stone so he can train more and more rattan archers. He currently has 2 castles going up to 3. I'm not too sure where this little sacrificial force is going, but sacrificial it will be. And here we go. Barles trying to brute force. Oh my god, what a fantastic last second house build. What a fantastic last second house build, and another one to protect the bomber cannons. But a sneaky Cavalier went around the other side. And this is what happens when brute force meets range. The brute force just absolutely overpowers, but this time maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I was a little bit too antsy in the pantsy to call it. At the same time, more and more arbalesters start mixing in Chukanus. You don't need arbalesters. The Chukanus will do extra damage. And again, they are gold cheaper. Although with 31 villagers on gold, I don't think Barles gives a shit about the gold cost of units. With map control comes resource control. And with resource control comes the ability to just throw army after army after army at your opponent. Whereas TaToH can't mine a single extra resource aside from stone up here. This gold is untouchable. It's going to be very untouchable in a second with that castle going up. Barles can do whatever the hell he wants. including streaming in individual cavaliers to die against the Rattans. Well, that army died. Why don't we throw another one? Very Roman of him. And he gathers his army for what, a 4th or 5th time? Castles up. Imperial skirmishers who chased the villagers a second ago will perish. And Barles, rinse and repeat. Why the hell not? He's got his units up to where he wants them. All the upgrades, getting architecture now for his structures. But he's got the siege rams. He's got the cavaliers fully loaded. He's got the elite skirmisher also, I believe, fully loaded. Yep. Light cavalry fully loaded as well. To be fair, Rattans are not easy to take down. Like I said, second fastest foot archer in the game after the plumed. And they are just so deadly against other ranged units. They've got the longbow attack of 11. Okay, our Vietnamese starting to add in a bit of a meat shield of his own. Only 2 bombard cannons left, one being trained. 0 villagers on gold for our Vietnamese, which is exactly why he researched paper money. And man, is he lucky that his civilization has access to paper money. Without that upgrade, he would have even less gold than the very little gold that he has right now. Be very careful. Don't step your foot over the grass. I'm too sure how those arrows fired there. I don't think I saw a unit cross the line. But Archer Force is an Archer Force still. And no matter how much Pierce Armor, you still have to fall to bonus. Archer +4 bonus damage. That being said, TaToH has been hovering around 70 army count. He just has not been able to expand outwards, which is exactly the problem with archer units in this game. Their range is amazing. Their defensive capabilities are very impressive, but the ability to push out with them when you don't have too many of these types of units, bombard cannons, trebuchets, rams, is very difficult. It is not easy to push out of a confining space with naught but archer units. Villagers joining into the fight, villagers dying. Army composition for the Chinese has not really changed very much in the last 15 to 20 minutes. He just keeps again throwing more and more units. TaToH has the stone for another castle. He's got the gold for absolutely nothing. With 3 relics though, maybe he can wait a little bit, survive a little bit, gather a little bit more. Light cav. I love that he's body blocking with the Rattan archers. I was gonna say light cav should probably focus on this one siege ram, although even a siege ram is gonna be hard for a light cavalry unit to take down. And the Chinese is in. TaToH's on the back foot. His army count of 70 is down to the 30s. His opponent's is up to the 60s. And it is not a bad 60s. A bunch of cavaliers are going to have their way with this farming community. 22 Rattans, only a single elite, Imperial skirmisher. And now you're trying to trade out trash for trash. But really, I don't think you really need to sortie out of your base at the moment. Gather your army count. Definitely don't tether it to the slower unit so that the army slows down. Don't tether it to the Rattan archer. Why did you do that? That was a throw of 2 or 3 cavalry units. Those cavaliers to the north look like they are killing more and more villagers. Barles has managed to kill 56, now 57. And the more he kills, the less food is gathered. The less food is gathered, the fewer light cavalry units our Vietnamese can train, and the fewer those he can train. I don't know. The hope is just going out for the Vietnamese civilization here. To be fair, he still does have his 2 bombard cannons, but Barles is not giving him a target. His units are spread out nicely. At most, if he's lucky, he'll get a hit on a few cavalry units. But there are enough elite skirmishers to make this Vietnamese army back away. What would have been the answer here for our Vietnamese? I don't know. I mean, the game's not over yet. He's down 40 villagers. He's down 20 army count. He's barely at 135 population, whereas his opponent's already at 200 and has more than 25 units queued. But this is what you got to do. Gather your army. TaToH's back up to 4950 army count. We'll find a single ram here in the middle of nowhere. How hard is it just for light cavalry units to kill rams? And TaToH just can't engage. He's gonna have to sacrifice all of his light cavalry units. I mean, he should be sniping the Cavaliers, right? With his rattan archers, or at least trying to. While his light cavalry engaging to the skirmishers provided a nice juicy meat shield. Oh, he's going after the Treb. He's going after the Treb. He gets the Treb. So to be fair, no more long distance building destruction from our Chinese. The problem is, while he was busy getting the Treb, a bunch of rams closed in on their targets. And now the relics are going to be gone. Without the relics, he has literally no gold. Oh. I spoke too soon. No, Barles realizes it retargets the rams. Who, to be fair, one of them should fall. No, one of them does not fall and should not fall because the game is over. Barles, after what, 8, 9, 10 attempts to try to get into this base, finally gets the answer he was waiting for and overwhelms the Vietnamese army. And like I said, range is fantastic. It's fun. But how many opportunities did TaToH have to push out where he just didn't have the ability to take map presence or map control, even just a little bit? I mean, the central castle was at risk at one point when he broke through the offensive lines here with the castle and the siege workshop, but he just was not able to capitalize on the and gain momentum at all, because archer units just are not like that. They're not designed for a quick burst of control like cavalry units, even heavier cavalry that don't move as fast as lighter cavalry. I highlighted that one again. They're still a lot faster than foot archers, and do establish map control a lot more readily. And speaking of map control, look at the freaking map. There is just blue Chinese everywhere, working with 7 archery ranges, 14 stables. Wow. And how many? 7 siege workshops, 4 of which are basically inside the Vietnamese settlement. And they are pumping out more and more siege rams, 9 in the production tab. And what is this? 29, 34, 43 units, military units being trained here at a time by our Chinese, whereas our Vietnamese can barely hit 125 population. And he held, to be fair, multiple times, but unfortunately could not deny the resource gathering. The economies can't be at all that similar. Rattan archers to cavaliers. That's a nice little fight there. And kudos to TaToH, by the way, for lasting 51 minutes. Almost rounded up to 52 just to be, mathematically precise and nice about it. But ultimately, like I said, the Chinese player can afford to throw army after army after army, legion after legion of units at his opponent, because even if he doesn't trade out well, as long as he trades out somewhat well, even poorly, it doesn't really matter. How many engagements in the beginning did Barles absolutely shit the bed on? Getting 1 bombard cannon for like 15 cavaliers is never a good trade. But when you have basically unlimited gold, unlimited stone that you're mining, and now you're even tiefing your opponent's resources, you can just keep throwing army after army. Don't be afraid to let your units die. Dying is exactly what these units are designed to do for Age of Empires. And with that death, Barles just finally, after 7, 8, 9, 10 attempts, does manage to destroy his opponent's will and desire and ability to make war. Imperial. How many times have I said elite? Imperial skirmisher and rattan is exactly what you want to see out of the Vietnamese. Maybe a few elephants would have been nice to see, but pretty expensive, especially when you don't have any map control and any additional resources. But skirmishers, light cav, more importantly, cavaliers, peak APM right in the middle end of the game. Let's call it middle of the game. Peak APM right at the beginning of the game, and let's see the economies. Okay, you know what? Remove the 1,000 gold, and it's about 11,000 resource difference, which is not as bad as I thought it was going to be fair. It was not. I think he lost a lot of villagers towards the end, which is what really hurt him. But look at the downward sloping nature of this red villager line. That tells you everything you need to know. To be fair, our Vietnamese did collect more wood. Everything else going to our Chinese player. 2 conversions to 0, 36 raisings to 10, and total kill count 299 of 353, but 84 villagers. And to be fair, the Vietnamese army that he's built does not really require 130 villagers to maintain. But I don't know, 92 seems a bit low even for me. Even in the most optimistic of assessments, I think 92 might be a little bit too low. And so Barles throwing army after army after army at his opponent, I think ultimately got just a little bit fewer military kills. Our Vietnamese TaToH did manage to get 293 military kills and 6 villager kills, whereas it looks like, what is that, 270, 269 or so for our Chinese. But it doesn't matter, 269, 469, a million, 69 dozen. I just want to say 69 over and over again because I'm a baby at heart. It doesn't really matter because the reinforcements are never ending. Like I said, 5 Cavaliers, 17 skirmishers, 12 light cav, and 9 siege rams, all from inside the house with even more infrastructure on the way. There's just not much the Vietnamese can do to just... It's like one of those first-person shooter games that has a zombie level. Okay, you killed the first wave, then the second wave, then the third wave. Okay, now you're kind of getting tired. Your thumbs are a little weary on the PS5 or your Xbox controller. Then wave 6, wave 7. Now you're kind of, oh god, okay, now I have to go to the bathroom. My friend is calling me. So there's something going on Reddit I want to see and read about. So I'm just gonna die. And unfortunately for TaToH, his army. Not the first, not the third, not the fifth push, but eventually the push clears out his entire base, and Barles, with the never-ending supply of units that comes from absolutely dominating the map, takes the W, but GG to both players.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips and make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so that you're notified of my latest uploads.